About 2 years ago, Toyota really shocked the industry when they reintroduced the Crown nameplate to the States after a 50-plus year hiatus. And while the Crown sedan was a peculiar all-wheel drive lifted four-door, today we're actually out here in San Diego, California to drive the newest member of the Crown family. This right here is the first ever 2025 Crown Signia. Essentially what it is an all-wheel drive, hybrid-only midsize SUV that's designed to be a little bit nicer versus your neighbor's Toyota RAV4. So if you guys have been looking for a family SUV and you don't necessarily need 3 rows and you want the best fuel efficiency, how does the brand new 2025 Toyota Crown Signia stack up? Stay tuned to find out. So before we talk about the unique styling of the Crown Signia, I thought I'd pop the hood and show you guys what's powering this thing. Now, unlike some competitors where they offer a multitude of different engines to choose from, Toyota decided to keep it pretty simple with the Crown Signia. This is essentially the latest version of their hybrid Synergy drive electrified powertrain. So it uses a naturally aspirated 2.5-liter gasoline 4-cylinder with direct injection. They call it dynamic force. It is hooked up with 3 electric motors. So there's 2 at the front and then 1 at the rear, a separate electric motor giving this vehicle electronic all-wheel drive. It all goes out through an electronic CVT transmission, and Toyota says the gas engine on its own delivers around 188 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. Now, when you combine the output of the electric motors, Toyota says the combined figure is 240 horsepower. So that's about 21 more versus what you get in the RAV4 hybrid and in the outgoing Toyota Venza. This vehicle, like I said, comes standard with their electronic all-wheel drive system. So there's no front-wheel drive version. Toyota says that a lot of people looking in this space really require all-wheel drive, so it kind of makes sense for them to make all-wheel drive as standard. Fuel economy is also an area where Toyota's hybrid system really impresses. This model, despite which trim level you go for, is going to be rated at 39 in the city and 37 on the highway, about 38 combined. This has roughly a 14.5-gallon fuel tank, so you're looking at just over 500 miles of range on a full tank. So that's excellent fuel efficiency and excellent range, especially if you guys plan to do a lot of road trips. And unlike the Venza, which this vehicle again is replacing, this vehicle can actually tow. If you guys go for the tow package, it'll max out at 2,700 pounds. The Venza wasn't even rated to tow, which was a big problem for people, looking in this space of vehicle, because the RAV4 hybrid could tow. This, however, could not. Now, in terms of the curb weight figures, the Crown Signia is heavier than the RAV4 hybrid and the Venza. As this car sits, it weighs in at just over 4,300 pounds. It's around 300 pounds heavier versus the Toyota Crown sedan. But let's go ahead and close up this hood here, which, as you can see, is held up by a prop rod. I'm actually kind of surprised it's held up by a prop rod and not a strut tower brace. But closing the hood there, let's go ahead and talk about the exterior styling for this Crown Signia. Now, we first had a chance to see this vehicle back in November, right before the LA Auto Show, where Toyota, again, was showing off this model, and it really surprised a lot of people because, the Crown sedan was an interesting, offering because it's a lifted all-wheel drive sedan. This essentially makes more sense, and it's kind of interesting as well because it's replacing the Venza, a nameplate that Toyota has now killed twice. But to me, in my eyes, this looks more like a Venza replacement. If you look at the front fascia, of course, it has the latest corporate design cues here. Because it's a hybrid, you have kind of this grille with slight openings in it that allow for air to pass through. There's your front camera system over there, along with the radar sensor for the adaptive cruise. Toyota Safety Sense 3.0 is going to be standard. This particular one that I'm showing you is the limited trim painted in oxygen white. The base trim will be the XLE. The Limited has the higher trim, or is the higher trim. As you can see, it's got the kind of trendy design language here with the LED daytime running light that's at the top portion here. The headlight, the low and high beam, is actually separate, divorced from the actual daytime running light itself. It also has, you can see, an LED turn signal, LED daytime running light. No fog lights, however, but you do have some nicely integrated parking sensors. I also like the color combination of this model here with the gloss black on the lower front splitter with the oxygen white. It's a really attractive looking vehicle. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. This actually kind of reminds me of the new Prius with this kind of C shape to the LED daytime running light and the turn signal. But moving around the side profile, this is where the Crown Signia gets interesting because unlike the Venza, which again, this model is taking its place. This is significantly larger versus something like a RAV4 or even a Venza. At a total overall length of 194.1 with a wheelbase of 112.2, this is a whopping 7.5 inches longer than the Venza, and its wheelbase is also around 6.3 inches longer. So this, to me, is actually about closer in length to the original Venza that came out back in 2009, where that vehicle was around 189 inches long. However, you probably noticed this has that long roof characteristic, so it looks a lot more like a wagon, and that's probably why the rear windows in the back aren't tinted, because the EPA may classify this more as a wagon as opposed to an SUV. Now looking at the wheels, you can see on the XLE trim, the base trim, you'll have a 19-inch wheel as standard alloys, of course. This limited trim comes with a bigger wheel. It's a 21-inch wheel wrapped in a 235 by 45 R21. It's a Bridgestone all-season tire. You can see it's got kind of like this multiple spoke design with the graphite gray finish. You have a 12.5-inch rotor at the front and around 11.9-inch rotor at the rear. You have an all-independent front suspension as well. And Toyota says this model has around 6.7 inches of ground clearance. Now that's actually around 1.5 inches less ground clearance versus the Venza. So that's again probably why the rear windows are not tinted from the factory, because this is more like a wagon as opposed to an SUV. Compared to the Crown sedan, it has about an extra 0.8 inches of ground clearance. So you're not going to be taking this off-road, but that's not the point of a vehicle like this. This is supposed to be, a road-going family car. It's about the same size as a Lexus RX, but it comes with a big significant discount. Now in terms of the rest of the styling elements here, you can see there's some chrome along the window trim. You do have a black painted side mirror here with the integrated turn signals. These are power folding. They have cameras, of course, mounted underneath the mirrors themselves. All Crowns will come with the low profile aerodynamic roof rails, and then the limited trim will also give you a panoramic glass roof. This is not open to vent air, but there is a power retractable shade. It also loses the star view chromatic feature from the Venza, where you could frost and defrost it from a push of a button. Toyota actually told us that the reason why they got rid of it is because the technology that involved that actually took up more headroom space, so they just decided to go with this. I wish the sunroof actually opened though, so I'm sad that it doesn't actually open to vent air. Looking at the rest of the profile back here, you can see the design reminds me a lot actually of the Corolla Cross Hybrid, or the Corolla Cross in general. Really nice design element here with the very skinny full LED taillights with the LED light bar. That's again another trendy design language here. You can see it says Crown at the back. There's no Signia badge anywhere back here. So again, people might be confused because there's a Crown sedan and a Crown SUV/station wagon, but you can see there's other badging here. There's Toyota's latest hybrid badging here. Their Beyond Zero badge. HEV stands for hybrid electric vehicle. It says all-wheel drive, and then it also shows the trim over there where it says a limited trim. You can see the rear bumper is also gloss black painted. It includes nice integrated parking sensors. Your reverse light is down here. No visible exhaust tip, but again, the design is very clean. It's very elegant. It looks more like a Lexus to me as opposed to an actual Toyota vehicle. But looking at the cargo area, this is where that extended length is going to give you some more cargo space back here compared to the Venza. Now, first of all, the space back here behind the second row vehicle, so there's no third row in this vehicle. You're going to have around 25 cubic feet of storage space. 25 is not a lot. That's actually a little bit less, about 3 cubic feet less by the numbers versus the Venza. A RAV4 hybrid is going to have also around 10 more cubic feet. However, if you fold down the seats back here, which you can do by just pulling this little lever, you can see that'll fold the seat down. This is where Toyota says you have just under 67 cubic feet of total cargo space with the panoramic glass roof. It's around 69 if you guys don't have the pano roof. Toyota says you can fit items as long as 6.5 feet long, and that's again because of the extra length of this vehicle. Compared to the Venza, this has around 20 more cubic feet of space. However, compared to a RAV4, it's down by about 5 cubic feet total. So it's definitely an improvement, but if you guys are still looking for maximum cargo space, by the numbers, technically, the RAV4 hybrid still has a little bit more maximum cargo space. So moving on to the interior of this 2025 Crown Signia Limited. First of all, this color combination is probably how I would do it for myself. This is actually the oxygen white exterior with the saddle tan leather interior. And if you guys like leather, all the Crown trims actually come standard with leather, not the Softex material, which is Toyota's fake leather. Even the XLE has a leather. The Limited has a slightly upgraded leather, and you can see the seats have a really nice upscale look to them. I love the contrasting stitching. I love the contrasting piping. I love how they're heated and ventilated. The driver's seat adjusts in 10 different ways. It also has a 2-person memory. The passenger seat adjusts in 8 different ways. Sadly, there's no lumbar adjustment on the passenger seat, but looking at the door panel material, you can see it has the same kind of saddle tan kind of extending through the portions of the door panel. This upper portion here is a soft touch injection molded plastic. You have a silver painted plastic door handle here. Your memory seat control is here. It's nice and padded over here where you'd rest your elbow. There's some piano black plastic trim along with the kind of bronze trim that you'll see on the door panel. It's also splashed onto the dashboard. The window controls, they're one touch for all 4. And this trim, because it has the advanced tech package, also includes the power folding mirrors. That's part of that $1,800 advanced tech package. There's also hard touch plastic down here. There's a little bit of storage. And then the Limited trims will come standard with an 11-speaker JBL sound. So if you guys are audiophile, you need to go for the limited trim because the XLE won't have the upgraded JBL sound. But getting inside this vehicle, you can see with around 6.7 inches of ground clearance, it has a higher step in height versus the Crown sedan, but it also doesn't feel quite as high as even like a RAV4 because, again, the ground clearance is on the low end for an SUV. As I get in and shut the door has a relatively solid sounding thunk. Remember, this is built off of the TNGA-K architecture, something that it shares with other vehicles like the Camry, for example, to the Corolla, for example, as well. But starting the vehicle up, you can see there's a start-stop button right here on the dash. And because it's a full hybrid, it doesn't have a traditional starter noise. So what you hear is just the vehicle turning on, and you just hear all the electronics come on. It also says ready. The key fob for the vehicle, I forgot to mention, is also right here. All Crown Signias come standard with Toyota's full entry smart key access system. It even says Toyota Crown on the back. It has your usual buttons here for lock, unlock, remote liftgate, and then panic. And if you guys also go for the limited trim, you'll also get a phone as a key function. Digital key, which is again part of like an option package if you guys go for this limited trim. But overall, the interior, if you guys have been inside the inside of the Crown sedan, this is going to look very familiar, but I really like, you know, the subtle differences that Toyota has done here. First of all, I love the saddle tan interior. It's also splashed throughout the dash. You can see in terms of the infotainment displays, all Crown Signias will come with a 12.3-inch fully digital instrument cluster, which is slightly customizable. And then you also have a 12.3-inch center display here, which runs on Toyota's connected services system, which is what they introduced a couple of years ago. It includes wireless over-the-air updates, wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. And you can see the screen itself is a pretty good size. I like the kind of integration with the rest of the dash. You can see there's more of the bronze trim. There's an actual volume knob here, which is nice. It also has a nice high quality feel to it when I'm turning the knob. In terms of the rest of the materials, you can see the upper portion of the dash has a padded soft touch injection molded plastic area. Up here it is hard touch plastic. You can see on this upper portion here, it's hard touch plastic, but in terms of, you know, the material quality here, you can see I'd say it's about average. It definitely doesn't feel as nice as a Lexus, but it also feels a little bit more special than the Crown sedan, and also more special versus the Toyota Venza. So I'm liking the way, you know, this system all looks, you know, integrated together. You can see the steering wheel. This is the newer steering wheel from a lot of Toyota products. I believe it's the same wheel in the Crown sedan as well. You can see the steering wheel itself. Surprisingly, it's a manual tilt telescoping adjustment. I was expecting it to be power, but I guess Toyota wanted to save that for Lexus. You can see there's the sensor there that watches your face to make sure you're paying attention, because it has their Safety Sense 3.0. You can see there's actual hard buttons here on the steering wheel itself. You have paddles on the wheel to control the ratios for the CVT. The horn, it sounds pretty nondescript, but at least it doesn't sound puny like in some other Toyota vehicles that I've tested and shown you guys. You can see there's standard dual zone automatic climate control, which is nice. You can see there's actual hard buttons and toggles, which is good. You also have heated and ventilated seats, which is an actual button, a physical button, which I like. There's also an auto mode. And then my test car also has the heated steering wheel function, which you can access via right here as well, via the little actual control. The backup camera, you can see if I put the vehicle into reverse, there's your full top-down 360 camera. That's part of the technology package, which includes front and rear cross-traffic braking, front cross-traffic alert. That's another feature that used to be reserved for Lexus. The resolution and camera quality is really good. It also has front and rear parking sensors. It also has a camera washer, too, in case the camera gets dirty when you guys are driving it in inclement weather conditions. But overall, this system, as you can see, is pretty much what you've seen before in other Toyota products. It also has, you know, some of your different settings here. You can go to an energy flow meter where it shows you where it's getting its power. You can also go into your settings here and adjust a couple of your, you know, audio information. You can adjust the display brightness. I believe you can also adjust the ambient lighting in this vehicle, although it doesn't offer multiple different colors. It also has embedded GPS, which runs off of Toyota's connected cloud services. So it includes over-the-air updates, but most of you are probably just gonna go to the CarPlay and pull up your phone anyways. And I like the way that was all nicely integrated. Down here you can see, instead of a piano black plastic, it's kind of more of a glossy gray plastic, which is a little better at not showing fingerprints, but as you can see, it still does. I like the area here for the wireless phone charging pad. My iPhone 14 Pro Max fits nicely, and it's also reliably wirelessly charging my phone. You have two USB-C charging ports here. You have a button here that you can push to give you a full 360 perimeter scan, which I still think that view is a little bit useless. I would prefer something more along the lines of what the Germans do, where you can kind of scroll around the vehicle and it kind of gives you a better stitched picture with it. The windshield is actually heated, and you also have headlight washers, it looks like. There's a button here for headlight washers, which I wasn't expecting to find. Down here in the rest of the center console, you can see cup holders. I like how that's not piano black plastic, although it's a matte finish, but you can still see it shows scratches at times, although my test car is an early pre-production model. You can see a nice and padded center console area. And you can see this opens up from the driver's side, but it also opens up from the passenger side, so that's a nice thing. You also have a USB-C in there, along with a 12-volt power outlet, which is nice. Above me, you can see this panoramic glass roof, which I wish opened up to vent air. It does have a retractable shade. I don't love this bar here. It creates a very small glass area over the driver area, and then you have this big bar. But at least it's nice that it lets in light, but I really would have preferred if Toyota would have given that the ability to open up to vent air. These seats are very comfortable and supportive. The heated and cooled function works okay. I will say the cooled function, I wanted it to work a little bit more robustly. I wish that the passenger seat here had a lumbar adjustment, but it's only an 8-way power. You can see the glove compartment is on the small side, actually. It kind of goes into the dash. The lid itself is damped, but not lined with felt. And then if you guys are an audiophile, I recommend the JBL sound system. It sounds okay, not as good as, you know, some of the Lexus Mark 11s systems, but overall, the interior definitely feels, you know, like it's part of the Crown family. It doesn't quite have the same luxury touches, like there's no wood or real metal trim in here like you'd find in a Lexus, for example, but it also does feel a little bit better designed and more cohesive versus the latest Venza that I tested. I think most people are gonna get in this car and they're gonna like the overall feel, the visibility, and the spaciousness that you get from the driver's side. Now moving to the back seat of this Crown Signia. So Toyota wanted to give you a reason to choose this over the Venza or the RAV4. And before we talk about the legroom space, I want to mention a couple of things. First of all, the door, I actually kind of wish it opened up a little bit larger. This would, you know, make it easier if you guys are planning to put like a big car seat back here. So this opening is a little bit on the narrow side. And then I also want to show you guys, the seat does fold down. You can fold it down from here as well. And it creates a pretty almost flat floor, but I actually didn't even notice this feature. This actually flips out to kind of help create, again, more of that flat floor where you don't have any kind of disturbances in the actual floor itself. This allows you to put items that are about 6.5 feet long. Toyota is very proud of that feature. So I like the way that the cargo is kind of set up because it kind of gives you that nice flat load floor. But getting back here, you can see it still has that nice easy step-in height as I shut the door. The door has a similar solid sounding thunk, and Toyota says you have around 37 inches of legroom back here. 37 inches is certainly a good amount. However, the Venza, if you look at the numbers, actually had around 0.6 inches more legroom, which is surprising to me. A RAV4 has around an inch less of legroom, so this is still not class-leading legroom figures. I mean, if you're looking at something like a Volkswagen Atlas Cross Sport that has over 40 inches of legroom, so Toyota could have done a little bit more space. This is essentially where I'd have the seat to drive. For my driving position, I'm 5'7". You can see there's a good amount of foot space underneath here. There is a hump here that intrudes on the middle passengers. This limited trim also includes rear seat air vents. You also got 2 USB-C charging ports, which is nice. You have 2 storage pockets. And then in terms of the materials back here, you can see they didn't cheap out, thankfully. You still have a soft touch injection molded plastic area, nice and padded over here where you'd rest your elbows. Nice little grab handle, a little bit more storage here. More of that gray piano, or that gray plastic that's shiny, outlining the window controls. And then you can see there's 1 level heated seats back here that's included on this limited trim, a small little tweeters for the JBL sound system. And then in terms of the middle passenger, you can see there's an armrest that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders. And the vehicle itself is about an inch wider than the Venza, so you could technically put 3 people across. In terms of the headroom spaces, I sit back here at 5'7". My head does cut pretty close to the roof of this vehicle, and that's because this vehicle's height is around 2 inches less than the Venza. So you do sacrifice a little bit of headroom space, but again, you get more length in the cargo space. And overall, the back seat is certainly, you know, acceptable for adults. Taller adults may find the headroom a little constraining, but this is probably a little bit of a missed opportunity for Toyota to give you even more space in the second row, and that's really what a lot of Americans are looking for when you're considering this type of SUV. So if you guys have always been looking for a SUV, a midsize SUV that doesn't have 3 rows, Toyota has always been kind of wishy-washy in this segment because they had the Venza and then they brought it back and then they killed it and then they, you know, now they're killing it again. Now that we're driving the Crown Signia, this is a car that I think is probably going to be here to stay, and this car only comes as a hybrid-only option. So Toyota's Hybrid Max Powertrain is strangely not available. Let's go ahead and see what we can do 0 to 60 wise. We have it in sport mode. We'll brake torque it. It actually spun out the front wheels, which is exactly what the RAV4 Hybrid does as well. All right, we got 7.89 seconds, which is a good deal slower versus what Toyota claims. The company actually says this car should be able to do it in 7.1 seconds. The last time I did that test in like a RAV4 hybrid, it did it in around 7.4, 7.5 seconds. So this car is heavier, but it also has around 21 more horsepower versus a RAV4 hybrid. So I'll have to wait until I get one back home to test for a full week, see if we can get a slightly better time. I do want to see, maybe we could try it again here really quick. It's pretty it's pretty empty, and we'll just floor it here. This time we won't brake torque it, we'll just floor it. It still spins the front tire out. All right, 7.87 seconds there. So again, slightly quicker. Brake torquing it really doesn't make a difference, but overall, I think this acceleration is going to be enough for most people. Remember, you don't buy a vehicle like this to go drag racing. I do it for demonstration purposes because I want to show you guys where it fits with its competitors, and I think that time should be plenty for most people. But in terms of how the Crown Signia drives, well, if you guys have driven any other Toyota vehicle on the TNGA K architecture, these vehicles drive very nice. It's not the sportiest driving car. The steering, as you can see, is relatively quick and direct, but the suspension is super soft. I mean, Rob is sitting here next to me and I can see his head bobbing every time I'm doing this with the wheel, but at least the car changes the directions pretty quickly, which is nice. I mean, it's not sporty, but it's also relatively comfortable. This limited trim, I believe, includes adaptive suspension as well, and I have to say, it rides pretty nice. I mean, we are on 21-inch wheels, so that is going to eat into the ride comfort because the wheels have a pretty narrow profile to them, or a thin sidewall to them. But overall, I think people are gonna be impressed with this car, the way it rides. It is relatively quiet in here as well, although you do occasionally hear the engine making noise when you really start pushing it. Toyota's hybrid system is very, very smooth, however. It's got a really, nice, well-matched electronic CVT. It's got a seamless transition between when the gas engine comes on to where it's running on electric power alone. And you can drive this vehicle on EV power alone. However, when you do that, you basically can't step on the gas too hard because the battery size for this vehicle is, I believe, only like 1.2 kilowatt hours. So it's a very, very small battery pack. It's designed to, again, only just provide enough EV power to allow the vehicle to drive on electric power alone at low speeds. But this is not a plug-in hybrid, so don't expect any electric only range. But as we drive through downtown San Diego here with all the traffic and the traffic lights, this is where the Crown Signia is going to excel because it's a hybrid. So this is where the engine is shut off. It's coasting on electric only. It's going to get better gas mileage here, and at a full tank, this car is showing a full tank at 608 miles of range. 608 miles of range. I mean, that's easily twice the length of range versus a lot of these, fully electric vehicles. So there's a reason why, a lot of these Toyota vehicles, these hybrid Toyotas are just doing so well in terms of sales. They're in high demand because of their efficiency, because they'll easily do in the high 30s to low 40 mpg range, and then you'll do 500, even 600 miles of range between fill-ups, which is just absolutely insane if you guys are, planning to do a lot of longer road trips in this vehicle. But in terms of the visibility, the view out of the front is good. I will say this pillar is a little bit thicker than I expected. The view out of the side is good. The rear, I love the digital camera review mirror. That's included with the limited trim. If you guys don't use it, you can flip that down. It has a pretty nice conventional window back there, so you can still see out of it nicely. I really don't like, however, how this car doesn't come with tinted windows from the factory at the rear. I suspect that, a lot of owners are probably going to fix that anyways and just put a 20% tint, but that to me tells me that the EPA classifies this vehicle as a car as opposed to an SUV, even though it really is an SUV, although some would argue it's just like a taller, slightly lifted up station wagon. But hey, that's also a Subaru Outback, and it has tinted windows in the back, so that's a little bit confusing. In terms of driver assistance, I won't be able to test it out right now because obviously we're stuck in traffic, but it does have their traffic jam assist feature, which is included with the advanced tech package. So this car at low speeds, if you're in bumper to bumper traffic, will actually steer for you and maintain distance and actually come to a full stop. And that's a really great feature to have, especially if you're constantly driving in rush hour traffic. The seats are also pretty comfortable. I actually love the fact that Toyota uses actual leather, plush leather, and they feel really high quality. They're nice and well padded. The headrest also feels soft and supportive. The cooled seat, I have it on now, and it works okay, but I noticed in the bright sunlight here in San Diego, it wasn't quite cool enough for me. But really, just tootling around town, this car still is really easy to drive. It doesn't feel cumbersome or huge, even though it's a good 7.5 inches longer. The brakes versus the Venza, the brakes also have a nice feel to them, where Toyota does a really good job of blending their regen braking with traditional friction braking. And then I accelerate here, you can hear the engine comes on very seamlessly. It doesn't make too much noise there. It really only makes a lot of noise unless I'm really pushing the engine when I'm doing a 0 to 60 test or driving this thing like a jerk. But most people, again, don't drive it that way because of the electric motor torque. It just easily, takes the vehicle off with authority. And then once the electric motor runs out of steam, the gas engine kicks in and fills in the gaps. And that's where you get that kind of effortless acceleration. Not best in terms of 0 to 60 times, but in terms of real world driving, this is where the car works extremely well. And I think that's why there's so much success with Toyota vehicles. I am looking forward to getting one for a full week to test. I mean, this essentially to me drives almost identically to like a Lexus NX or a Lexus RX. The Lexus might be slightly quieter, but the ride quality reminds me of that. The seats are plush, the leather in here feels high quality, and you can see out of the vehicle extremely well. So I think for those of you, who are considering a RAV4 hybrid, but you want something that's a little bit nicer, it has a little bit more space, not a lot more space, a little bit more space, but you don't want to, again, pony up the extra coin for a Lexus, I think most of you are going to find plenty to like with how this new Crown Signia drives. So even though we haven't seen the Crown nameplate in the States for over 50 years, I have to admit, when Toyota first brought back the Crown sedan nearly 2 years ago, I was genuinely perplexed as to why the Crown was coming back. Because remember, the Crown sedan is a replacement for the Toyota Avalon, a vehicle that just has been kind of experiencing a decline in sales every year. But if you actually look at the sales figures, the Crown sedan Toyota did last year around 19,000 units, which is actually pretty good considering it wasn't necessarily a full year of sales. But its sales numbers actually outpaced the Avalon in 2023, 2022, 2021, and 2020. So it's been doing pretty well for Toyota. So after spending some time or the day driving the Crown Signia, basically the long wagon version that's supposed to be an SUV of the Crown, I have a feeling that this vehicle is definitely going to meet or exceed the sales figures that Toyota is expecting. Because as you guys know, the Crown sedan is already a really nice driving vehicle that offers a ton of technology, a ton of space, a ton of luxury-like features as well. And basically, the Crown Signia kind of mirrors all that, but it gives you a more practical, wagon SUV body style. The rear seat has plenty of space. The interior tech is pretty much what you expect from Toyota with their audio multimedia interface. It's got their driver assistance, Toyota Safety Sense 3.0. The cargo space is definitely more versus the Venza, but if you're looking at maximum cargo, you're still gonna get a little bit more versus the RAV4. The back seat is a little bit more spacious than a RAV4. Really, what the Crown Signia is a kind of a tweener vehicle. It occupies a white space between Toyota and Lexus vehicles because the car essentially is the same size as a Lexus RX, but it's also going to be significantly less expensive. And in terms of the powertrain, the hybrid powertrain is pretty much what I expect. 0 to 60 in the 7-second range. You should be able to do, almost 40 miles to the gallon, and most people will also be able to do over 500 miles of range as well. That's really what hybrid buyers are looking for. That's why Toyota hybrids continue to be so popular. And if you guys are looking to basically get your hands on one of these vehicles, you're gonna have to wait until July. So basically next month, because Toyota says that these are going to be built in Japan and they're going to be coming overseas from the Japan plant. But pricing for the new Crown Signia is going to start significantly higher versus a Venza, the vehicle that this is replacing. And that's because the Crown Signia comes as a base trim with an XLE trim. So the Venza offered an LE, the Crown's going to only come as an XLE, and all-wheel drive is going to be standard. The base price is going to be around $43,200 for the XLE. If you guys want the limited trim, it's gonna start at around $47,900. So around $4,000 more versus the XLE. My test car here has a couple of options. The advanced technology package will roll in the full 360 camera. It also has the extra paint charge for the oxygen white color. With destination, the grand total comes to around $51,675. I know it's a little over 50 grand. It makes it around $4,000 more, $4 to $5,000 more than a comparable Venza, on which the vehicle is, taking its spot. But I'd argue that the Crown has more power, it has more luxury, it has slightly better technology, it has a much better look as well. This just looks a lot sexier to me. I especially love the long roof wagon design. And again, if you're looking at comparing this vehicle, you could also compare it to like a Lexus NX, and NX is going to cost you about a couple $1,000s more. A Lexus RX is going to cost you around $12,000 more. So there's some value to be had here if you guys don't necessarily care about the luxury badge, the Lexus badge. So really the Crown, while it may be still a peculiar vehicle in the lineup, I think it's going to occupy a nice little white space that's going to attract a buyer that's looking for essentially a RAV4 hybrid, but wants something a little bit more unique and a little bit more spacious and a little bit more luxurious versus all the RAVs that you typically see out on the roads in today's marketplace. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new, first ever 2025 Toyota Crown Signia. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.